Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our Steftalks today. Our topic is work from home secure, cut the vulnerability. Today we have two great speakers, Marco and Greg. I will have them introduce themselves. After the presentation, we will open it up for some Q&A. So anytime during the webinar, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in your question box and we will answer them at the end. We are recording this session, so later today you will get the recording and some main takeaways that we want you to remember. Thanks again for joining, Greg and Marco. Let's get started.
Thanks, Amy. My name is Greg Cothran. I'm the Director of Enterprise Services for Stefanini. We've been doing a lot of work with security in the different industries in the different regions, and we've had a lot of challenges here recently with all of the work from home and the distribution of locations where people are working from. And we'd like to share some of those lessons learned with you. Marco?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Greg. Hi, guys. It's very good to have you here to discuss this very relevant topic today, how to be safe and cut the vulnerability when we're working from home as well. My name is Mark. I'm the head of cybersecurity, and my work is basically understand what's happening in the cyberspace so that we can help our clients with information, with services, etc. Today's session is not about Stefanini's services, okay? It's about information. It's about how we can see the big picture and where are those vulnerabilities? Are these vulnerabilities really happening? Do we have people really attempting to attack the companies in a cyberspace? And okay, how can we approach these vulnerabilities, okay, in a big picture way? Please put some comments. It's always good to have the comments. It drives the presentation. This is a dynamic presentation, okay? We have some very few slides here to show and lots of dynamic stuff to show to you as well, okay? And this presentation is probably going to be available online, so you can see it afterwards and send to your colleagues and family as well. Okay, guys, we need to be safe both in our companies and in our families. That's good. So let's start. Well, in the first point here, I want to just take a quick look in the cyber arena. And for that, guys, I'm going to use a live threat map. And this is very good because we're not talking here, oh, I think there are some threats. I think there are some attempts to attack. No, let's see the real deal happening right now, okay? So I'm going to switch here to my browser. And what you can see here, and Greg, I appreciate your comments on this afterwards. What we see here is a laboratory from Checkpoint. They have some global sensors that they're detecting attempts to attack. So this is what we have here. It's amazing, guys. So far, we have 15 million attacks on this day. And of course, as some of the statistics that we have in the cyberspace, a vulnerability may be open for 300 days plus without nobody noticing. So we need to be very aware of that. And with that, Greg, is that really happening, man? Because it's such a high number, 15 million attacked on this day. It's like a cyber war, man.
Yeah, these numbers include things like phishing vulnerabilities, actual forced threats and forced entries, hacks, you name it. So there's all kinds of different threats and vulnerabilities that are being exploited every day, and these numbers are showing and representing that.
Okay, yes, very good. So I think in a very dynamic way, it's clear the message that this is happening right now. So in today's presentation, the goal is just to understand our context. Where are the vulnerabilities? Where are the threats? And how can we protect them ourselves, right? In a dynamic way, I want to proceed here with a real environment simulation where everybody here is going to be able to identify him or herself in this scenario. So let's start with this, any kind of a company, okay? Because security, hey Greg, do you know of any business segment that is not, that should not be aware of cyberspace, cybersecurity, something like that, or is it for everybody?
Sure, companies that have no computers and still do payroll with paychecks.
Yeah, that's a good point. I love that. That's a good point, Greg. Yes. Okay, so we're talking about all of the business segments, right? So let's start with the basic stuff here. Every company wants and needs to have an internet presence, right? And we have then a corporate link, a dedicated one, and everybody has a website these days, of course. Several websites, let's put it like this. This is a surface, okay? We're gonna talk about an attack surface. And then the companies, they have network assets, okay, agile, maybe you have some agile team, a development team that is developing and delivering softwares every day. I mean, we have 3 here, but the idea is that we see dozens of systems in every company every time. And of course, these systems, they have their databases, file servers, and other services, right? So we have a dynamic company nowadays. And of course, we have some public IPs, right? Public services, you name it. We can have a network file sharing services. We can have remote desktop connectivity through the internet. We have services and ports open to the internet, okay? And of course, we have firewall and stuff. I'm gonna reach this point. And every company nowadays, and more with the digital transformation, we're gonna have clients, partners, and suppliers in a rich ecosystem. Greg, do you have something to comment on this ecosystem, like partners, suppliers, imagine retailers, etc.? Is it possible? We're not exploring the vulnerabilities here, but I think we have several information that could be potentially used just looking at the ecosystem of a company, right?
Yeah, Marco, I think the real concept here we're trying to show and explain is that in this environment where we were before this pandemic, you have that boundary of protection. You have a team of folks that are working your security, your internal IT, a lot of different folks trying to help protect those assets that you have around your corporation. And it was in a controlled environment. It was, you had a certain number of public IP addresses, you had a certain, service provider that was providing you internet connectivity, and that protection was kind of taken, I don't want to say taken for granted, but it was assumed that you had that protection.
Yes, very good point. Very good point. And then we have these regular protections. Firewall is one, of course, but we can have another, traditional security, right? And nowadays, and more, we have the cloud services, which we divide into 3 major categories, okay? Software as a services, platform as a services, which you can have some databases here, you can have microservices running here, and infrastructure as a service, which is basically taking a server from the on-premise here side and taking it to the infrastructure as a service. Okay, so this is cloud. There's no magic in cloud. Okay, it's just someone else's computers, as someone said to me these days. And we have the an ugly guy here, which is the shadow IT. The shadow IT is basically software as a services applications that the business users love to use. And let's be fair, guys, and let's be honest here. There are a lot of good and nice applications that people use in their daily lives just to get the things in the business going, right? But we have some issues here that we'll explore later, right? And then we have this COVID outbreak, which is the COVID nowadays, but it could be another major issue in a nation-wide state, something like that. And what's happening is that we have the government and the official entities just providing information, guidelines, best practice, etc. And one of them is just to have the people working from home. And that's why we're here talking today. Regular people working from home. And this is basically the kit everybody has at minimum, right? We have their computers, smartphones, and a personal internet connectivity. That's it, guys, okay? So we're gonna explore a little bit of that. And this is the traditional journey of people, what people are doing daily in their work when they're working from home. It's like the same thing, working with financial accounting, client sales, contracts and proposals, several important things, even HR and legal data, video calls, etc. And of course, plus tons of personal data, because we tend to mix things, okay? I don't judge, okay, guys, it's just a real life. We tend to mix the things in the computer, okay? Great. In addition to that, so that the people, regular employee, can work from home, some of the applications that were meant to be inside the company, as Greg was mentioning, they're now exposed to internet. And the point is, these applications might not be well suited in a security aspect to be exposed to internet. This is a point to be in mind, and we're going to explore this in a few moments. And we have information about COVID that comes through emails, messaging apps, real context, convincing message, and of course, behind of that, there's this phishing. Greg, I would like just to ask if you could share. You were mentioning behind the camera that that you received a peculiar message, right? Can you share just a little bit of this message? That it's amazing how convincing the message is.
Yeah, you know, before we used to get phishing emails, you could always kind of tell they were phishing emails. There was something off. They were, you know, the wrong grammar, misspellings, things that just kind of didn't seem right in those emails. A use of a word or spelling of a word that we're not used to, especially from different regions. I had just recently changed the way I pay for my personal Office 365 account. And 2 days later, I get a phishing email that was almost perfect. There was no grammar issues. There were no spell check issues. Everything was perfect. The links, when you moused over, spot on, showed Microsoft.com as part of the URL. For the, I don't want to say untrained eye, but for the untrained eye, it was almost ridiculously perfect for me to click on the link and enter my information again to get my pay, my pay information corrected. So they would have had all of the information for my credit card, including my CVV number. So it's imperative that we do a lot more training and we keep folks informed to be cautious, to challenge those emails that you get. Instead of just clicking on links on emails, go to the actual website, log into the website yourself. Most of those websites have those in your secure messaging box, your banking information and so forth. You'll have that message in your secure inbox there. But go to those websites and log in. And don't just click on email links, and don't just go to applications or open up documentation that comes from folks if you have a question in your mind.
Yeah, very good, very good, because they're getting better and better at how they write the message, right? And it's not only in the mails anymore. We have this on WhatsApp, text messages, etc. Okay, very good. And during the journey of the work, people are receiving free games, free online things, coupons, and those stuff. This just makes the situation a little bit complex. And of course, behind of the smartphones, we have a lot of apps, right? So that brings a scenario. And we don't have only regular employees. We have C-level people working from home as well. And although they're both valuable in the companies, the key difference is that the C-level, they interchange, and they communicate strategic things, and they have a digital footprint. They are a target, if you will, okay? So I wanna invite you guys to just think about this context that we just sat here and think, where are the vulnerabilities, okay? Where are the vulnerabilities? I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna continue here the presentation showing the vulnerabilities, but please, if you spot here, if you did spot a place where a vulnerability could be, just put a comment, and maybe Amy and Greg can just say if you comment something, okay? I'm gonna continue the presentation here, but where are the vulnerabilities? Let's start with the one that Greg was talking about. Behind a very convincing real context message, we could have a phishing. And a phishing is a problem because once we click it, you may not even notice. Let me switch my panel here. Okay, I'm gonna go to a thing here, Adobe Security Bulletin. Okay, and this is a security update from Adobe. Okay, which mentions here successful exploitation of this vulnerability could lead to arbitrary code execution in the context of the user, of the current user. So if someone receives an email with a PDF or maybe a Word document, but in this case, a PDF, double click, nothing happens. Oh, well, nothing happened. What's wrong with this mail? Boom, you have a backdoor open for a command and control server with a hacker from I don't know where is able now to control your computer. Okay, and what this person can do once it has control over your computer or over your system, let's put it like this. We have here a matrix called the MITRE attack, and in here we have the MITRE matrix for enterprise, and we have, this is what we call more or less a queue chain. So what's happened in a chronological way, you initially get an access, execute something, you escalate your privilege, you discover your network, your applications, and so on. You have lateral movements just to get, once you are inside, you can do several stuff there. You can do some lateral movements. And this is the point where I would like to come here. What people like to get content, as you all know, right? So what we're talking about audio capture, clipboard, man. This is amazing. Data from local system, email collection, input capture, screen capture, video capture, and basically keyloggers. I mean, because of one single PDF that a person just double click it, a person could do this. Okay, now let's not be so pessimistic, negative like this. Let's understand that we have massive attacks and we have targeted attacks. Okay, if one company is a target, man, this is going to be a problem. Okay, it's going to be way tougher to fight against it. But what happens right now and things like that is that we have massive attacks happening every place here. So let's just keep in mind that behind a phishing, behind an email, we could have a hole open in the wall. Okay, great. Now the second one is the same concept here, guys. Behind the free games and online things, there's always people. There are always people wanting you to double click something. They need to have you to execute something in order for the malware to get in. Okay, and then people get very creative to influence you to do this. And of course, we have the App Store. People tend to think that the viruses and the malwares are just in their computers and smartphones. But what happens is that I'm going to switch again just to the same matrix, okay, here. But now we're talking about a mobile matrix here, which says, okay, what kind of initial access people can have in their smartphones, radio interfaces, lock screen bypass, and stuff like that. But what happens is that they collect all the same things: contact lists, notifications, call logs, etc., calendar, and etc. Okay, just to point out that things are happening. If you have a public IP, if you have an IP, it's good to focus on the security. Okay. Now another one is that people need to work in their daily business, and they will need these softwares. And what happens is that developers, they don't have the full skill to develop in a secure way. They develop in a secure way based on the platforms that they're working, but they don't go enough, right? So the applications are exposed. And by the way, we have 10 plus 25 common vulnerabilities that the hackers, they are aware of. And it's so easy to exploit these vulnerabilities, okay? So this is a vulnerability. And what we're doing here, guys, we just set the scenario and we're now pointing the vulnerabilities, okay? And then we're gonna cover the types of solutions that we need. So strategic communication, we may have a hacker having a investigation behind the scenes just to understand. And we have here a man in the middle just capturing the information that this home is sending over to the internet, okay, because it's not encrypted. And in the shadow IT space, some of these startups, okay, they're cool. Hey, Greg, tell me, what about this idea that if something is in the cloud, it is safe? What's your comment on this?
Yeah, that's common. A lot of folks think that just because they put it in the cloud that they are secure, but those same vulnerabilities and exploitations can be done, whether it's software as a service, platform as a service. There's no denying they have more resources and more capabilities, more money to spend towards protecting those assets and so forth. But those vulnerabilities exist every day. Every time you get a software update, there could be another vulnerability or another exploitation that's released. So even if it's in the cloud, it's still under the same premises. Your machines, your corporate organizations, there's still vulnerabilities that can be exploited by those that wish to do harm.
Okay. At the end of the day, we're talking about applications and services on computers, right? It's like that. It's like the same. Okay, the websites people can explore. It's so easy, again, just to understand what's your website and then try to explore it. Okay, it's not a difficult task to do. The public IP is the same. Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Hey, Marco. Yeah, I wanted to add to the website there. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Most of the time when you were working before this whole pandemic, you were accessing maybe your corporate website, whether it was a internal website or an external website, maybe it was SharePoint hosted online or so forth, but you were accessing it from within your organization. Now you're at home accessing that through the internet. So your corporate websites could be just as vulnerable, if not more vulnerable, because now you're having to maybe even release some of those security concerns or restrictions so that you could still work from home, but you haven't hardened those websites the way you should for that massive amount of connectivity from these external resources. So some things to just kind of be thinking about within your organization.
Yes, good point. And we have in the client partners and suppliers, if someone, look, if you know what my supplier is for some good, for example, and I can see who is the CEO or some C-level person, and then I can create an artifact, an email, and send to a person inside your company, say, okay, I talked to this person, which is your supplier, and this and this and that, and now I need this and this and this. So it is not difficult to do some bad things when you have information. So this one is thing. So we have several points here where a hacker could potentially use. And once they reach some of these vulnerability, they're inside. And once inside, they're gonna run scans of vulnerability. Okay, so we have one element here that is scanning the vulnerabilities here. Okay, the network assets, etc. Greg, I believe Germany had an issue with a doll, right? A baby doll, if I'm not wrong, that had some internet connectivity, and then security issues, and then this company had to take all of these dolls from Germany because of safety issues. I mean, it's not computers, right? It's if you're connected, you're there with the vulnerabilities, right?
Yeah, any any device that's connected that has an IP address connected to or capable of getting access to the internet is a vulnerability, and they can exploit those vulnerabilities. Something to add, Marco, to your message. Great message. Keep in mind, they may not be just looking for information on your systems. You may have a company that you just think that, you know, I make widgets and not too many people even buy my widgets, so I don't really have to worry about it. But you may have assets that are there connected to the internet that makes you a perfect spot for me to hide applications so that I may be able to use them later for denial of service attacks. So your equipment that's connected to the internet is to a hacker is a wealth of resources that if I can, you know, lay some code underneath your operating system that I can get access to whenever I need to exploit a denial of service attack against a, credit card company or a bank or someone who's done me wrong or just for bragging rights. I remember back in the early 2000s when we first started dealing with these security threats, the average age of hackers then was 16 years old. So these are kids that, these are kids that just, they're bored, but they are sponges. So they can read information, they can look up information. And then of course now with the dark web and Google and the amount of information that's out there, there's a wealth of information that anyone can literally learn how to become a hacker and can take revenge if they want on different systems, that are out there. So, this is not just protecting your internal information. This is protecting your assets for being used for other crimes. So.
Yes, for being used for a crime, such as a botnet, right? Okay, so now we have here in the scenario 12 spots that could be exploited, right? And what are the types of solution that people and companies can use to mitigate them? Okay, so let's start with governance, risk, and compliance. In here, we're talking about cybersecurity frameworks that we can rely on to create a roadmap. This is so important, guys. Every company should look into these frameworks. As instance, NIST, for example, has a cybersecurity framework which helps you to identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover from security issues, right? So it is important you don't have to go the full game. Yeah, you can just start small and then create traction towards a roadmap. We have the Security Operations Center, but that we call it like a SOC, which is a structure that runs 24/7 per 365. And what happened is that I have one here running. If it's not timed out, let me see here what it is. Yes, it's here. So we have here, this is a software that looks into the information every time here, okay? Every event that happens, we have information here, and we can see the alarms here, okay? Through the time, and we can go to see, for example, that MITRE attack that I showed you. We have here, for example, yes, it's loading, okay? Yes, we have here the MITRE attack. Yes, so we have here in the last 24 hours, that framework that I showed you, we have this dynamic framework here in the context of this company here, okay? This is just a demo, guys. But look here, brute force, public exploit public facing, and you can even go in the last hour. What has happened in the last hour? And you can have automatic responses for events such as this, like, for example, exploit public-facing application, which is something that Greg was telling us right away. So in here we have vulnerable software exploitation, and then you click here, and this is all automatic, guys. It's so important, okay? It's a Linux platform that has been exploited, and strong message here, guys. It's not Microsoft only that suffer attacks here, that has vulnerabilities. We're talking about Linux, we're talking about iOS, of course, Android, if it's connected, even industrial things, okay? SCADA systems, we have some vulnerabilities. And then you have the information here, what you can do, and for every vulnerability you can create a rule, etc. So it's a very good system to rely on. Okay. Now, in terms of cyber threat intelligence, what I bring here, what is this, guys? This is a constant feed of security information that you can use in a qualified way or plug into your SOC. Okay, so I have here another system that this is real deep and dark web running here. Okay, guys, and what this system does is they show us, okay, what people are talking about in the dark web here. Okay, this new malware related threat. Okay, another one. Okay, look at this. Yes, Turk Hack Team provides a download link for an Android rat, right? So this is the kind of information that everyone needs to have, because once you know this, you can go to your infrastructure and protect it. Okay, guys. And the common vulnerabilities. If you click in one of these, they're going to show what you have, what people are talking about in the deep and dark web. So if people are talking about this, you can probably be a target in time. Okay, this is important. Okay, these three pillars here. Now, in the other side here, we have in the homes awareness, backup, firewall, antivirus, anti-malware. Endpoint management connected to the SOC here, it is important, and multiple factor authentication. Username and password, it's not enough anymore. We need to have these checkups in security. Okay. Now, if you have a VPN, it's a good one as well, because you have everything encrypted. Even if a hacker gets your information, it's encrypted. Okay, so it's a good one. Advanced anti-phishing, because of these phishings we are having nowadays, they require artificial intelligence, the most advanced, to understand what's happening, to capture what's happening in other companies, so that you can get collaborative content and knowledge, right? And secure communication, email encryption, at least for the C-level, it's so important. Data secure at rest and at transit. Okay, this is important as well. Cloud access security broker is another kind of solution that we have, just to understand this is a transparent layer of security, so that every information that's passing through to these shadow IT applications, we as a company at least understand what kind of information is getting there, who's downloading, who's uploading, what's being uploaded, those kind of things. Okay, it's not that we're understand what's happening there. It's just a safe monitoring. And of course, network pen test and application pen test, which is basically to have ethical hackers trying to invade and trying to access your systems, your applications, your networks before the real hackers do. Okay, actually, these ethical hackers, they are real hackers, but they're doing that for good. Okay, so if you have a system, it is so important to run pen tests on it at least twice a year, and of course in the network as well. And of course, just to wrap here, these solutions, we have web application firewalls and a lot of modern applications here. Okay, we're not just talking about firewalls here. So I'm going to pass to the key takeaways here. And Greg, do you have something to add in this diagram that we presented to the people?
Yeah, Marco, just overall, I know this is a very, convoluted picture, if you will, of the entire story, and you see a lot of different areas that we've talked about that are, threat areas that we should be concerned about, and hopefully we're kind of giving you some ideas and some things to think about. But as Marco said earlier, you really want to start somewhere. Even just a vulnerability scan that can identify your category 1. We categorize vulnerabilities based on how dangerous they are, how easy they are to exploit. But just taking care of your category 1 vulnerabilities, and then later on, as you get further down the road, you can start focusing on your category 2s and 3s. But if anything, just start training programs and getting your folks aware of there are these vulnerabilities out there. Don't do these certain things. Don't open applications, click on links of unknown origins. And just be mindful of that, and that will help so much in protecting your organization overall. Thanks, Marco.
Okay, sure, thanks. Okay, let's go to the key takeaways. We have only 30 key takeaways. Okay, guys, I'm just kidding. I have a few here. Let's go 3 by 3. Okay, guys, and then we can finish. Okay, so through one infected computer, the whole business can get compromised. This is so important, guys. This is just a health issue. Okay, if someone with COVID enters in a place, it can infect everybody. Okay, and it's the same with the computers, right? Phishing is still one of the most successful ways to get inside. It's not like that magical thing, that breaking news. No, guys. Phishing is still one of the major. Why? It's because of the cost to access and the benefits. It's so cheap to use this exploitation. Okay, and cloud and access does not mean necessarily safe, and Greg mentioned about that. The potential impact of a compromised business is really high. Companies can close their business, okay, because of something like this. Okay, a company can start small in cyber, which is basically what Greg said. And yes, there are hackers everywhere attempting to compromise business systems and people. And yes, guys, let's just remember about this live map here. Okay, we have massive attacks going on and targeted attacks. Let's hope our companies are not targeted, but we have this kind of things. Okay, great. And the last one here is like they use everything they can: information, a piece of paper, someone that's sad about the company, etc., digital footprint, etc. Okay, it is important to rely on threat intelligence because this is a global effort to raise information. Okay, and ideally, Greg said about the pen test or the scan of vulnerability. At least start with that if you didn't start already, you know. And 24/7 per 365 is a must if your company wants to have a good level of safety. Okay. It's impossible to have this manual monitoring. It's really impossible. Even if we have, it's a big data information. Okay, it's impossible to analyze it manually. So basically, that's it. Greg, do you add something on these key takeaways, my friend?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is you really think hard about if you took every one of your computers in a certain organization and you just turned them off and told your employees to continue working, just keep working, but you don't have a computer anymore. You don't have internet access anymore. Your mobile devices are really all you have because they didn't get exploited at the same time with ransomware. Ransomware is expensive, especially if you're in manufacturing. Your finance department gets hit by ransomware and those machines are locked down and you can't get access to them. It's nasty. It's hard to get rid of. And it replicates. It just keeps growing throughout your organization once you get infected. So keep those things in mind. It's kind of like backup. It's a necessary evil that you have to be aware of and you have to be mindful of, and to help protect yourself from that. Get engaged with security, get engaged with your security managers, your CISOs, talk to them about the things that they can do. Look for ways that you can increase your knowledge of these security vulnerabilities. Get smart. This is going to be a internet warfare that's going to go on for years to come. It's not something that's a phase. It's not going to go away over time. This is always going to be an issue that we're going to have to address on a day-to-day basis. So. Thanks, Marco.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks, Greg. It was a very good wrap up. And by the way, Greg, thank you very much for our interactions here, your comments, your valuable comments. Amy, thanks a lot. If you have some questions in there, please go ahead. And people, guys, thank you again for your time here. And it was great to establish this connection with you. Okay, guys, Emma, it's with you.
Okay, so I do have a couple questions. What is the best way to protect a business network in the actual scenario? There are a lot of folks working with their personal computers without the right protection.
Okay, very good. Well, Greg, I'm going to start. If you want to compliment, please go ahead. Okay. So first thing is, well, just try not to do different things, you know, that you do in your regular daily business. Okay, this is important. Second one, if you are working for a company, make sure ask for local solutions such as the antivirus, anti-phishing, those kind of things. Backup, it's so important to have a backup, okay? Because if you get infected with a ransomware or something like that, and you have a backup, it's a whole different life where you don't have it. So that's it. I would suggest you to start a conversation with your company about security, right? It's important to go through the direction that security guys or the IT guys are going. And if you don't have a security guys, talk to the business, talk to the C-level people, okay? Greg, do you add something on it?
Yeah, look for those local vulnerabilities that you can be aware of, like for example, an insecure personal wireless access point. If your access point has a weak password and someone may have already gotten that password and they are, listening in, or they can hop frequencies and things like that. So there's a lot of different exploits with wireless access points. If you're using a wireless device because you're comfortable sitting in the living room on your couch, that's a vulnerability, and you need to be aware of that. Look for a hard lining into your modems to kind of reduce that vulnerability, if you will. You'll get faster speeds anyway, so especially nowadays with the video teleconferencing and such. Talk to your company about VPN solutions. Maybe there's a cheaper, smaller VPN that you could go, hide my IP or something that you could use as a temporary measures to encrypt your connectivity going out. And kind of minimize the vulnerabilities that you have that are local to your network.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, thanks. Good question.
Do you have any recommended tools to detect phishing emails?
Yes, yes, we do have. We have some. We have. I don't know. It's like in the place here to mention about the tool, but we have Israeli anti-phishing software that is really good. Okay, we know as well an anti-phishing from US. Okay, if you wanna know more about it, just please drop us a message. Okay, and we can go forward with this tool. They exist and they are good. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those spam devices and Fish Me and other applications that are out there that you can route your mail through to give that initial scan. So things like that you can look at for your company as well. So there are solutions that are out there. You just have to be diligent in researching those and finding out what works best for your organization.
Yeah. Okay, I think we have time for one more question. What should I do if my network has been compromised?
Okay, you want to start with that, Greg? Then I compliment.
Sure. I'm assuming they're talking about maybe their home network. If you're talking about your corporate network, the first real thing you need to do and worry about is do an assessment. Find out, if you think they've have accessed your network or your network has been compromised. The first thing to do is assess the damage. Figure out exactly how much of a penetration they've done into your network. What data access do they have? What information has been compromised? And then probably start some triage after that. Do you need to shut everything down, change your passwords, change your IP addresses? Things that you can do quickly to kind of shut that door immediately, so that you can kind of reassess and then start putting in more solutions to protect yourself. So, Marco.
Yeah, sure. Let's complement with the enterprise side, right? If we're doing the governance, risk, and compliance work already, that means your company already has a vulnerability management and a response plan in place. with forensic tasks even so. So the ideal scenario is not to wait to get attacked, just to have everything in place. Just imagine my company will get compromised someday. Okay, so we need to have the plans, and the maturity and the frameworks of the governance, risk, and compliance will help draw and design this process on what to do if my company gets compromised.
Yeah, good point, Marco.
Stefanini.
Business continuity plans shouldn't be just for pandemics or, you know, natural disasters. It could be for anything. It could be, you know, exploits.
Yes, actually, one of the questions that we have in the frameworks for the cybersecurity is like, do you take into consideration the security vulnerabilities when you are assessing the business risks? And that's exactly what you just mentioned, right? Okay, Amy, that's a response.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, both Marco and Greg. Everyone, I hope that you enjoyed the webinar and that you were able to take away and learn something new. Like I mentioned before, we did record this session, so later today you'll get a link to the recording and then just some key takeaways that we want you to remember. Thank you again. Everyone stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you all.
Bye, guys. Thank you all, guys. Let's cut the vulnerability. Bye.